Join me in a word of prayer. May the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. So have you ever wondered what Jesus thinks we should be doing with our lives? Does it ever come up in your thoughts? Have you ever asked the question, what would Jesus do, and then actually try to figure out what Jesus might do in a given situation? Have you ever pondered the question, why am I here? What is my purpose? What is my mission? What am I supposed to be actually doing with my life? Well, if you've ever wondered any of those questions ever in your whole life, I got the answers for you today. Pretty cool, huh? Because the answers are all found in the Gospel of Luke, in verses 27, 28, 29, and 30 of chapter 6. All the answers you ever want are right there. All we need to do is focus in on the action words in those verses, and we have it all. Here are those action words, starting with verse 27. The action words are, we are to love and do good and bless and pray and offer and give. That's it. Pretty simple. Love, do good, bless, pray, offer, give. Wow. Can't be any easier than that. Of course, Jesus tends to add a few words to that to kind of explain what those words are all about. For instance, when he says love, he says we are to love our enemies. It seems he has to add that because, the first question we would ask if we were told to love is like, well, just how many people we love and who are we to love and how long are we supposed to do this loving stuff? We would want to set boundaries up. So Jesus has to expand those boundaries as much as Jesus possibly can. So Jesus says, love your enemies. Well, how long should we do that? Well, Jesus doesn't give us how long. He doesn't give us a timetable, so I guess it must be like forever. Love your enemies until, lo and behold, they no longer are your enemies. Because if you love them long enough, wow, how can they keep being your enemy? Assuming that God creates all people, God doesn't really create enemies, but creates sons and daughters and brothers and sisters. So when all really is said and done, to love one another is just to love your brothers and sisters, without boundaries, without limits. Okay, so that's the first word. How about the next one? To do good. Again, Jesus expands this a little bit because he wants to tell us exactly where the boundaries are, because we want to limit it all the time. So Jesus says, do good to those who hate you. Whoa. How about, why didn't Jesus just say, do good to those who like you, and do good to those who you like? That would be really nice. Why didn't Jesus tell us to do that? Well, because we would already do that, right? So Jesus tries to expand it out a little bit. Jesus simply tries to draw us out, see the possibilities. So we are to love and we are to do good to everyone. All right. Third thing is we are to bless. Now, what does the word bless mean? It could mean to wish one well. That's a nice definition of bless. It could mean to have an attitude of grace and hospitality and goodwill to the person you're blessing. That could be a good definition. Does it mean to think well of the person whom you are blessing? Well, that's another pretty good definition. You might come up with other definitions of what it means to bless. All of them would probably be very well. Well, also it might mean you may have, so again, who are we to bless, to wish well for, to have an attitude of grace and well-being toward? Jesus says we are to bless all of those who curse you. Curses. There goes Jesus again. Making us do things we don't want to do, making us do things that indeed are impossible to do. We can't do those things. They're not in us to bless those who curse us. We're not going to do those kinds of things. It's too much. Just who does Jesus think he is anyway, making all these demands upon us? The next thing he says we are to do is to pray. Prayer. Now this is a nice thing. You fold your hands, you close your eyes, you bend your head, and you pray. You breathe deeply in, you come close to God. What a wonderful thing to do. I suppose Jesus is going to tell us something about prayer now. Jesus says we're to pray for those who abuse you. Not again. Not another thing we cannot possibly do, unless you're thinking the way I think a lot of times. Unless you're thinking, I will pray to God to punish those who who abuse me. Yes! That'll be, yes! If that's what Jesus wants us to do, I can get into that. Yeah, that'll be cool. But wait, if we pray like that, it kind of goes against all those other words to love and do good and bless, you know. If we pray punishment against those who abuse us, we can't really do that if we're also supposed to love them, do good to them, and bless them. Ooh, doesn't work. And I know, to me, this is starting to get really frustrating. So let's move on to the next one. Jesus says we're to offer ourselves. Sounds okay, I don't know exactly what that means, but we're to offer ourselves. I suppose Jesus gives us some guidelines on this as well. He says that when anyone strikes you on the cheek, you are to offer the other one as well. You know, I don't think Jesus understands the world that we live in. Doesn't he even read the whole Bible? Even in the Bible it says an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. We're supposed to get even, seems to me, that's what the Bible's saying. So when one strikes you on a cheek, you're supposed to offer the other one as well. Just what good is that really going to do? Next thing you know, Jesus is going to say we should give somebody the shirt off our backs. Lo and behold, that is the next thing he says. He says, anyone who takes away your coat, do not withhold even your shirt. Ah! Jesus doesn't live in Wisconsin in the wintertime. I tell you what, I thought it was going to be so simple when we started off. Jesus wants us to love, to do good, to bless, to pray, to offer. Sounds so nice and so simple to do, but then when you read into it further, what Jesus really wants, it's way, way too complicated. It's not easy at all. In fact, it is impossible what Jesus is asking us to do. He says we are also to give. I can hardly wait to see what Jesus says about giving. Jesus says we are to give to everybody who begs from you, and if anybody takes away your goods, do not ask for them again. Well, once again, Jesus does not live in the real world, because if we would do that, you'd all know what would happen. We would give and give and give and give and give, and eventually we become one of the beggars who would have to ask for stuff. Right? Give, give, give. There's always somebody who's going to take advantage of that kind of stuff. What is it that Jesus really wants? Maybe it's in the next line where he finishes it all up. Here it is. We are to do to others as you would have them do to you. Do to others as you would have them do to you. Love your enemies and think what it might be like if they loved you in return. Do good to those who hate you and think what it would be like if they did good to you as well. Bless those who curse you and think what it would be like if they would also bless you. And if those who abuse you would pray for you, what would that be like? What would it be like if someone gave you a coat and even the shirt off their back? And what would it be like if somebody gave you everything you needed? What would it be like if others treated you as you would want to treat them? Wow. Look at it that way, everything changes. If your enemy loved you, well, your enemy wouldn't be your enemy anymore. If those who hated you do good to you, well, they wouldn't be hating you anymore. If those who curse you bless you, well, they wouldn't be cursing you anymore, would they? What Jesus is really talking about, the world that Jesus is seeing, is a world so different from ours. In fact, it's so different. And really, it can't happen, can it?